Every good movie has a cast of memorable characters. Han Solo, Legolas, Mac from Predator. But what about the characters that don't get a lot of screen time? All the background characters that are forced to just stand around and fill out the scenery while the heroes trade gunfire and witty dialogue. They only have a few brief moments to burn their faces into the collective memory of every audience member. And some of them do that job so goddamn well that I'm gonna talk about them for the next 7 or 8 minutes. The guy throws a can at John Malkovich in Being John Malkovich. Being John Malkovich is the quintessential movie about climbing through tiny doors that magically grant you the ability to test drive John Malkovich like a Hyundai Elantra. After one such episode of Dirty John Cusack hijacking his brain, John Malkovich comes to his senses on the side of a highway in the middle of the night, just as a pickup truck comes rumbling by him. And then this happens.
Hey Malkovich, think fast!
Think for a moment, if you will, about the confluence of events that just played out in that split second. A guy was riding in the passenger seat of his buddy's pickup, bouncing down the same stretch of highway that John Malkovich happened to be walking on, and that guy had to look up, spot John Malkovich ahead of them, recognize John Malkovich ahead of them, articulate the thought in his own mind that he feels a personal derision for John Malkovich, make a decision to express that derision to John Malkovich, decide that specific expression was to be to throw something at John Malkovich, have recently finished a canned beverage so that an empty can happened to already be in his hand, and then throw that can out the window at John Malkovich. All within the half second it took to pass John Malkovich on the highway. Make no mistake, that guy's entire life was leading up to that one glorious moment in which he got to throw a mostly empty beer can at the back of John Malkovich's head. What could have happened to make him so angry, and specifically so angry at John Malkovich? Was he just hugely bummed out by the man in the iron mask? Maybe he watched In the Line of Fire and thought John Malkovich was actually trying to kill the president, and he just kept that plan of action in his holster for years, on the off chance that one day he should happen to pass John Malkovich while riding shotgun on the highway on a weeknight. That's like the saddest opera ever written. We only got to see 2 seconds of it. The old guy in Waterworld. I don't really remember much about Waterworld. It came out 20 years ago. Kevin Costner drank his own pee. We never really forgave him for it. One of the only things that sticks out in my mind is the scene where Dennis Hopper's eye flies out of his head. Because why not? We're on a planet made of water. The Earth is ruled by whale sharks. Costner's got gills. Might as well give Dennis Hopper a f***ing crazy eye that just shoots out of his head. The other thing I remember is that Dennis Hopper keeps a pet old person inside an oil tanker. And when Kevin Costner blows it up later in the movie, it looks like this for some reason.
Oh, thank God.
We only see this guy one other time in the movie. We have attached nothing to his plight. If the explosion hadn't stopped long enough for him to deliver that line, I would have forgotten he was down there. Never would have thought about that old guy again. Instead, thanks to his impeccable comedic timing, he's virtually the only thing I remember about this pile of ridiculous nonsense. So what's the story of his life? Did Dennis Hopper catch him in an old man trap and put him to work? Or did he just speak up at the wrong meeting and earn Dennis Hopper's eternal ire? Either way, in a world full of people living shitty lives, his life is the absolute shittiest, and that is fascinating to me. It seems like his job is just to constantly measure how much oil they have left in that tanker, and then report that information back to Dennis Hopper, whenever D-Hops happens to fling open that hatch and ask.
We're down to exactly 4 feet, 9 inches of black stuff.
The rest of his time is his own, to spend however he chooses. And I cannot imagine what he does with it. I'd rather watch 3 hours of that than 1 more second of Kevin Costner's improbable hairline. This f***ing maniac in Sleepy Hollow. Long before it became a spell to cast instant resentment, putting Tim Burton and Johnny Depp's names together in a sentence used to be a way to describe really great movies. One of which is Sleepy Hollow, a reimagining of the classic Washington Irving story about a men's rights activist who dresses up as a ghost to scare a cowardly schoolteacher away from his girlfriend. The Tim Burton version recasts Ichabod Crane as a cowardly police inspector at the turn of the century, who spends his introductory scene fishing a dead body at the Hudson River for Lord High Chancellor of the police, who emphatically tells Ichabod that there will be no autopsy and instructs my favorite character in the entire movie to wheel the body away and burn it.
Burn it.
Yes, sir.
What's the meaning behind that reaction? What is that face? You saved that face for winning the Super Toy Run, not for committing the next several minutes of your life to inhaling the stench of burning human. His day leading up to that moment must have been haunting. He's clearly the villain in an entirely different Victorian murder mystery, probably also starring Johnny Depp. 2 different movies intersected here, and I want to see what happens in the one starring a guy who cannot wait to set dead bodies on fire. The Dancing Kid in Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks was that show your parents watched about the lovable special agent Dale Cooper trying to solve the murder of teenage Laura Palmer in the idiosyncratic logging town that gives the show its name. It's due for revival season next year because Santa Claus took 30 years to answer my letter. The show is a brainchild of David Lynch, a man who is so famous for being odd that his name is used as a shorthand for things that are just f***ing bananas. And Twin Peaks does not disappoint. It's a film noir soap opera with a relentlessly earnest lead character, and the tone of the show goes from chillingly dark to broadly comedic, frequently and without warning. One such moment comes pretty early on in the pilot episode when Laura's high school friends are rushing off to class. After exploding into our lives with the greatest conceivable introduction, we never see this character again. In the Twin Peaks universe, that kid doesn't know he's on a television show. Nobody was looking at him. He wasn't doing that for anyone's benefit but his own. Unless he danced out of that hallway, his whole morning was meaningless to him. So does he just dance in and out of rooms? Is that his thing? Because good for him if it is. It's a hell of a decision to commit to as a teenager in high school. Most people decide to be leather jacket guy or headphones guy. He's a guy who grooves in and out of every room like a 1930s cartoon character, and he owns it. Admiral Piet in the Star Wars trilogy. Admiral Piet goes through a whirlwind of field promotions in the original Star Wars trilogy. 2 of his superior officers get strangled to death right in front of him by his magic supervisor. One of those strangulations happens over a video phone. Darth Vader can choke people on TV. You can't even see his face. That's a hell of a lot of stress to be carrying around with you every second of every day working on an Imperial flagship Star Destroyer. And while all this insane bullshit and on-the-job murdering is going on around him, he never looks anything but chilled the f out. He's holding it together. Piet's just a company man, trying to keep his head down and earn a pension. Maybe he's got kids. Maybe there's a family cottage in Naboo he's looking forward to retiring to. All he has to do is stay on Vader's good side. And he does it! Somehow he does it! He stays alive through 2 whole movies, under the constant watchful eye of Darth Vader's aggressive form of performance review. But then, in Return of the Jedi, he gets blown up by goddamn terrorists. It's like Ernie Hudson making it all the way to the end of Leviathan and then getting drowned by the monster in the last 2 minutes. They're making 1 million Star Wars movies. Why not give us an Admiral Piet movie? Dude's earned it. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Go down below and subscribe, like, all that good stuff. And let me know in the comments what your favorite background movie character is that maybe I didn't mention in the video. There's one that I really wanted to get to, but I didn't. It's in Cliffhanger, you know, in the scene where Stallone drops the lady in the very beginning and they cut over to Michael Rooker and this old guy who are like trying to help pull her across. And the old guy is standing there just like, we're making a movie. Just the biggest, dopiest grin on his face while this lady falls into a fucking canyon.